Hello, folks, and welcome to another edition of Friday Night LAIKA. Here we are today. I am going to be making a story with you and with LAIKA and with the brain in a jar of Kafka, Franz Kafka, that we have here in LAIKA, to make a little story of some kind over the next half hour or so. So, for those of you who have never worked with LAIKA before, at any point, I'm just going to copy this because I think this is a pretty good prompt to use. At any point that you want to try out LAIKA, just head to the website, writewithlaika.com. Any of your friends or family want to try it out too, just click on apply for the beta and I will be giving them access anytime. Very, very soon. I'm adding in a bunch of people every single day and sending them all emails. So if you want to come in, it's free. The water's warm. It's a lot of fun. Come try it out. Okay. So with that said, we're back to what we actually want to do today, which is to make a small story with the brain of Kafka. So you might notice I've worked a lot before with different brains here. I've been making new brains this week. I've made some more stoic brains after the success of our Marcus Aurelius. And I've been making a Basil Valentine. I've been working on some alchemical brains from the Middle Ages also. But you know that we can work with all these different brains using LAIKA. You can upload any of your own. You can make brains with any public domain content you find on Project Gutenberg or anything like that, or your own work, especially your own work. That's what we're really there for. And what I've noticed when I play with the different brains is they all have their own kind of characteristics. They all have their own things that they're good at. So when we worked last week, we worked with the Grimm's Grimm Storyteller. And for that one, we used a lot of things like alas and behold and running into things from that kind of a space. And so today we're going to work with Kafka. And so Kafka, the thing I've noticed from working with the Kafka brain is he's very, very attached to the character of the name of K. And so we shall be using this character of the name of K because it's nice to kind of glide into the material that the brain is familiar with and that the brain likes to work with. And we shall also be thinking about general themes of existential despair and that kind of side of things. So if you're along for the ride, we're here. If you're in the chat, if you're watching, if you want to be part, just type something in anytime. I can see my chat room right here, so I'm very happy to take on board anything at all that there is. If there is, if anything pops up, please, or anything you want to say or add to the chat, to the story, pop it in. Okay, so we're in Kafka's Whirlpool, which is a combination of Metamorphosis and The Castle by Kafka. So I was playing around with some prompts earlier, and this is the one that I was working with that I thought that got some interesting results. So we basically had a team meeting today. It was the last team meeting of our full team, and at the end, our wonderful AI expert it was their last day today. And so they had basically ended it by saying, what are their last words, spoken their last words, and that it was time to clean up. And so I kind of was using last words and time to clean up in ways to try and figure out an interesting prompt for us to start off with. So Kay closed the door behind him and exhaled a sigh of relief. He had spoken his piece, and now everything would be what? Let's find out. I'm going to use the magic button. I'm actually using the hotkeys to try and figure out what might happen next. So we get 3 options every time we click on magic. And this first one, now everything would be clear. He would not be faced with any new difficulties. Everything would be calm and peaceable. That does not sound like something that's going to happen in this story. It sounds a little too chill, but let's see what some other options are. Now everything would be easier, even if he would have to remain 10 minutes longer. Okay. And now everything would be in order. Everything would be set right. The next day would be a new one. Okay. The new trial would start at the same time as before. Okay, so between these we have a kind of everything would be clear, everything would be easier, or everything would be in order. And if you happen to be here and hanging out, let me know. Pop in a message in the chat and tell me what I should do, what I should pick between the streams and which I should go for. But in the absence of any participation, I'm going to go for everything would be in order. So he had spoken his piece and now everything would be in order. And I'm going to just edit this a little bit to make it a little bit cleaner. Hello, Marmar. Everything would be order. And the next day would be a new one. And then I think we can make this into an extra sentence here. So it's just a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier. The court, not be here again, old face will be back to be here. And I think we can also just get rid of all of this and still keep it interesting, and something is going to happen next. So he closed the door behind him, he exhales a sigh of relief, he has spoken his piece, everything is okay now, everything's in order, next day would be a new one, the new trial would start at the same time as before. I'm just going to change that to at the same time as the old one because that feels a little bit more good to the writing brain that I have. So here we are, and we get to write a sentence next and see what happens. So let's see, the new trial would start at the same time as the old one. This would be Kay's 14th trial. This would be Kay's 14th trial. Although he was only 30 years old. He wondered how many more trials lay ahead. He wondered. He wondered. Let's find out what he wondered. He wondered about it all day, tired and went to sleep. Oh no, he's actually the lawyer. Okay, that's nice. That's a nice twist there. I was thinking of him as being the prisoner, but let's see what happens actually. He wondered how many trials were to follow. That one's a little bit boring, I think. He wondered how many more he might have. So I think that the first one here is definitely the most interesting, even though it has a little error in it here somewhere, but we can fix that up, no problem. He wondered how many more trials lay ahead. And I think then that we can actually flip out this here. He was suddenly very tired. I mean, I would be very tired thinking about how many more trials I had if I'd had 14 and I was only 30 years old. He was suddenly very tired, so he lay down and went to sleep. And I think here we can maybe say, in his dreams, Kay finally remembered that he was the defendant's lawyer. As morning broke, he awoke and lay there a long time. Okay, so I think we're now in a space where there's definitely some kind of trial happening. Kay at the start seemed to be the defendant, but actually is now perhaps the defendant's lawyer. He's remembered that in his dreams. And we're going to see now what happens, perhaps at the court. So I think that we should take ourselves towards the courtroom and see what happens there. So as morning broke, he awoke and lay there for a long time. Finally, he arose and went through the motions, and went through his morning motions. Coffee, shower, suit, and a water bowl left out for the cat. Okay, so from here, I think we shall move ourselves towards the courtroom. Leaving his house, Kay walked, I think he can walk briskly, to the courthouse. Okay, let's see what happens next. So we just press the magic button. His mother, oh my goodness. Maybe his mother is the judge. Maybe his mother is the defendant. Well, I'm very intrigued by his mother being there. This is opening a whole new set of things for me. What else could it be? 3 hours? I don't think that's going to work out for me. The building was still standing. Okay, So I think that the first one is definitely the best one, that his mother. So let's see. He walked briskly to the courthouse. His mother, who had been so worried about him. I think we can just get rid of all this. Opened the door briskly to the courthouse. So let's just see. Maybe he arrived a little bit late and that's why his mother was worried about him. So he arrived 5 minutes past the hour. His mother, who had been so worried about him, opened the door to the courtroom, but she stood in the way. She did not let him in. And I think that's interesting enough. So I hope you're getting a kind of a feeling for how, like, I use LAIKA, like I've been using LAIKA for, and other forms of writing like this for a few years, and just getting the idea that, like, you don't have to take the whole thing that it gives you. You can change it. Like the whole idea is just that it keeps giving you ideas. It keeps keeping things moving so that you can keep on creating and you can keep on feeling inspired enough to create further. So long as like the pen is moving, so long as you keep on making things, that's what matters. So, okay, his mother, who had been so worried about him, opened the door to the courtroom, but she stood in the way. She stood in his way, actually. But she stood in his way. She did not let him in. She grasped the lapels of his suit jacket and looked deeply into his eyes. "My son," she said. "My son," she said. "Father, don't hurt me, don't hurt me, don't hurt me." Okay, interesting. The classic AI familial mix-ups. We get an awful lot of those. "My son," she said, "stop being such a cry bomber." I don't even know what a cry bomber is, but I'm very intrigued by what that could be. Okay, what sort of people are you? This is all very mysterious. "Or my son, go back into the hallway." Ooh, okay. So I like "don't hurt me." I like the cry bomber because what a strange word. But I especially like "go back into the hallway." She's telling him not to come into the courtroom, not to enter the trial. Interesting. Interesting for me. I'm going to stick with this one, unless someone tells me otherwise. "My son," she said, "go back into the hallway." Go back into the hallway. Exclamation mark. Go. Okay. Kay was unnerved, agitated, and who wouldn't be? On this, the day of his 14th trial, to be sent away by his own mother. Shameful. Shameful, he thought. And what else might he think? And now he has a son. I don't think he does have a son, but let's figure it out. He had to pull himself together. He had to make amends. Okay, I'm liking pull himself together and make amends. He knocked at the door. Okay. Oh, she followed him. Okay, I like her following him. So I'm kind of between choosing her following him or him having to pull himself together. I think I'm going to go with her following him, and he'll try to pull himself together as that's happening, and we can have the two things happen at the same time. Okay, shameful, he thought, as she followed him along the corridor and down the landing. He tried to pull himself together, but he was shaking with the indignity of it all. A lot of indignity in Kafka. His mother caught up to him and said, really interested in who she is and why any of this is happening. The land is under the ownership of the court. Okay, interesting. Okay, that one doesn't work at all for me. Okay, and that's all a lot of mess in that one. A very, very messy one there. Okay, so I think this is a good one here. His mother caught up to him and said, my son, the land is now under the ownership of the court. Belongs to its judges. Belongs to the judges. Oh. Forgive my bad typing. It belongs to the judges. Okay. So I'm just going to have a quick scan over what we've got so far and see where we might want to poke the direction of the story. You might remember if you watched the Frankenstein one before, or the Edgar Allan Poe, or the Grimm's Grimm fairy tales, which are all on our YouTube channel. This kind of like idea of like steering things in a particular direction, kind of trying to steer it around so that we can bring together a story that's like in the shape of like maybe 1 page long. So let's see what we've got here. Okay, so Kay is a pretty stressed out guy. He's got a lot going on. And now his mother is very interfering. At the first I thought his mother might be the judge, or I also thought his mother might be the defendant. And now she's talking about land. The land is under the ownership of the court and belongs to the judges. And he is the defendant's lawyer. Okay. Okay, so what can we even do from here? Is his mother the defendant, or is the defendant someone else? I think the defendant might be somebody else, and his mother is a little bit of a busybody. I'm not sure quite yet, as I'm often not sure, which is the joy of it and the fun of it, and part of the whole excitement of doing these things, especially doing them live, when you have no idea what's going to happen next, but you're just trusting that something's going to happen. And strangely enough, something always does. So let's see what we got. We've got Kay. He's the defendant's lawyer. He's at the courtroom. His mother has stopped him from going in, and she's basically castigating him because the land is under the ownership of the court. So I think he's failed in his work for the defendant, and the defendant is somehow related to them or somehow connected to the mother. So let's see, I think Kay shivered with despair. Without the land, I'm so bad at typing. Without the land, there would be no money to pay for the bribes. And bribes would be needed to win this trial. His mother shook her head and gave him a disappointed look. A look he knew only too well. Go on then, she said. Let's see you succeed against these odds. Kay turned and walked back to the courtroom. Trembling with fear. And yet, inside, a spring of courage was welling up. And getting into it now. Okay, pacing to the dizziness, maybe. Another old woman wanting to give him something, or hope. Okay, I like hope. I feel like Kay's going to go in now and do something that's going to win this trial, or at least set it on a different track, or at least completely fuck it up in some interesting way. So I don't think I like the dizziness one. I don't think I like the old woman by the door. I think we've already had an old woman by the door, so it's not very interesting to have another one there getting in his way. So I think we're going to go for this last one here. A spring of courage was welling up, and there was hope. And now there's a clerk's office. In the clerk's office, adjoining the courtroom. I think Kay can do something here. In the clerk's office adjoining the courtroom, Kay whispered into the ear of the judge's secretary. She blushed and okay, gentlemen, maybe. Okay, now we're getting married to the judge. Okay, she blushed and nodded in understanding. Okay, gentleman. I don't think I like the gentleman one. Oh, hello, Nicholas. How's it going today? The writing is going mysteriously. We are working with a Kafka brain, and we are in a very strange pickle where we have a character called Kay, who is a defense lawyer at a trial, and his mother has basically stopped him from going into the courtroom, and now he's heading back in, and he's going to try and win. But let's see. I'm not sure what's going to happen next. I wish you were here, by the way. We're having this Spielfest here in Copenhagen in a few hours, and it would be lovely if you were here to hang out with us. Okay. She blushed and nodded her head. This is the one about waiting so long. I think she's going to do the nod. I think I like the nodding and understanding one, because that one gives us the feeling like she's going to do something in the court that's going to make things happen. So I'm gonna keep that one. So she blushed and nodded in understanding and opened the window to let the cold air in. Okay, into the courtroom, let's say, because that could be useful. Okay, yes, Nicholas, you have to come back to Copenhagen. It is an imperative, a moral imperative. Okay, she nodded in understanding, opened the window to let some cold air into the courtroom. Just cold air, just cold air. I don't need the sun. To let cold air into the courtroom. Kay went into the courtroom also. And immediately the trial began. Again, as it had. What would we have at the start? New trial. and immediately the trial began. His defendant looked at him guiltily. And Kay looked back at his. Let's find out who this person is. I think it might be his father or his brother or something like that. Okay, his wife. At his trial. Okay, his wife. It's his wife. His defendant looked at him guiltily, and Kay, in turn, looked back at his wife. When the time came for the judgments, what is it that lawyers do in the courtroom? What is their little speech called? When the time came for him to provide a defense, he looked over to the judge's secretary, because I think the judge's secretary is going to somehow sort this out. Who? I think she's going to save the day. Okay, she's in the doorway to the courtroom. or she's hurrying over to the judge's desk, or running back in the corridor. Okay, so I think she's going to hurry over to the judge's desk. So, who hurried over to the judge's desk? Because I think that whatever happened here, when Kate whispers into her ear and she blushes and does her nod of understanding, they have some kind of understanding going on, and the judge and the wife have some kind of thing going on. And between these two things, the secretary is going to be able to figure out a way to influence the judge in the trial somehow. Sometimes I think I might just be completely insane when when I'm writing these little things and having such a great time putting them all together. I hope that it doesn't sound too wild out there for you. Okay. He looked over the judge's secretary, who hurried over to the judge's desk. Okay, great. Hurried over to the judge's desk. She whispered something in the judge's ear, and he blanched. That's a very good old schooly word. And he blanched with a face with a frozen expression. He glared at Kay. And banged his gavel. Whoops. Oops, I think I did the wrong thing there. Yeah. Okay, she whispered something. He glared at Kay and banged his gavel. Okay, let's see. Young people, or something to the judge. Oh, goodness. Okay, I mean, I have a kind of rule for these. I have to go with one of them, even if I don't really like any of them. I mean, he can just look closely at Kay. Yes, I think that's the one. Okay. He looked closely at Kay as Kay put his hand in his pocket. As Kay put his hand in his pocket. The judge's eyes widened. I think we're quite a threatening defense lawyer. The judge's eyes widened. And he called for an end to the trial. Kay's mother returned to the courtroom, and we gotta find out what happened to her. You know, can't leave any characters untouched. Okay, this, or oh my God, we've got another one. Okay, and when the council at Comforter called. Okay. She wouldn't admit it, but she was grudgingly proud of Kay. And Kay's wife? What happened to her? I think what happened to her. Kay didn't care. He just gotten through his 15th case. his hands in the air and turned to head home again. Okay, so basically have this shape of going to the trial, an awful lot of corruption going on from literally every single person in the entire story. So I'm liking that. So I'm going to take a little screenshot of the contents here. Just I like to make sure I remember everything that we've done. You know, these little things make me happy. And then we should pick a piece for the illustration as well. So I wonder what is a good illustration for this one. I think it's going to be the mother. Yeah. I think it's going to be this piece here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to immediately head to our LAIKA Imagine channel, where we have our Mid-Journey working in there all the time, which is very, very nice because you don't get so stuck in too many people. And I think that we might want it to be, let's just say, existential, gloomy, and see what kind of thing it'll bring us as our illustration for the story. I can already tell it's going to be very gloomy. Oh, goodness me. It also looks like it's going to be very modern. But it could be very modern. I was just imagining some kind of distant space, distant land and time. Okay, getting in there. We got 47%. So I suppose I like this, the look of this one here. I mean, we can't quite see it fully yet. Goodness, there's an almost eerily Kafka-esque vibe to the upper right, isn't there? And I also really like the fact that three of them, have no head whatsoever. I mean, no wonder the mother is worried about him. So I don't think I can resist the bottom right being our image. Although this is very, very good and very, I think this one is actually better. It's very Kafka-esque. So I'm going to go for 2, even though I love this the headless mirror in the courtroom. But this one is very good. So we'll get that one upscaled, and then that will be the image that we go for today. Although it's quite slow today. Oh goodness, it's really eerie, isn't it? Yeah, existential is definitely no head. But I mean, this is very much like a portrait of Kafka. And there's nothing in this that says Kafka except, I suppose, just the concepts of existential and gloomy. So, very interesting. Also interesting that it has literally nothing about the mother or the courtroom or standing in his way. It's really just the guy. We're looking deeply into his eyes. I'm look at the back of this. Look at this. Absolutely wild business. Okay, wonderful. And yeah, just a reminder, if you're part of our LAIKA Discord, which anyone can be, if you just join up with LAIKA, you can be part of our Discord. We have a Mid-Journey working inside of our Discord, so at any point you can be in there and use that, and it's so much faster than working in the normal Mid-Journey servers. So I'm just going to save that image. And with that, folks, I think that is a great place to stop for the day. We had a little look at Kafka. We've got a bunch of other brains to try out. I'm thinking about next time doing a little work with some of the Stoics, with Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, and making a kind of handbook, a little mini handbook of advice for living in the modern world, done by the Stoics and us and me and LAIKA. So that is a good thing we might try out. If you have any requests for something else we might try instead, we should do that. Nicholas, if you want to give us all your tweets in some sort of text form, I am very happy to make a Nicholas brain, and we can make a bunch of you make a bunch of LAIKA prompts from a Nicholas brain. Very, very happy. And with that, again, if you want to join LAIKA, just go to writewithlaika.com and click on apply for the beta, and I will get you in a few days. I am adding in a bunch of people every day. And with that, I wish you a wonderful weekend ahead, and I'll see you next time. We won't have any Friday Night LAIKA next week because we're going to be traveling, but the week after we will have it, and we will probably try that stoic advice for the future, or advice for living in the future coming from the Stoics. So hope to see you then, and hope you have a great time. Until then, bye.